What's up, gamers? We're back. Another Yu-Gi-Oh video. The Yu-Gi-Oh ban list from YCS Houston was so good. I had to sleep off, hit myself twice, and look at it again. Think to myself, it's just a dream, but it wasn't. Now, it's been a few days since it dropped. I let it marinate a little bit just to give it my overall thoughts. I thought it was a very insane ban list because to the scale that it is, this 30 cards here, as you can see, 30 cards here were hit, and that's crazy. Now, I do want to go over about it with real quick. I think which ones are obviously the most important ones. So let's get over the unlimited stuff first because that's probably the easiest one. Cyberjar, yeah, Danger Jackalope and Tsuchinoko probably could have came back to 3 about 2 years ago. So cool. Perform while Monkey Board's pretty cool, right? Play Monkey Board. No Electromite. Eva is probably the most important one on here, mainly because we haven't had 3 Orange Light and 3 Eva. So it's quite interesting, but everyone's suspecting, oh, it's going to be playing on Drytron. But, the new support is pushing Drytron away from Herald Fairies. It's pushing towards more make the big ritual you win kind of playstyle, I like it. It's fine. Now, there is quite a lot of semi-limited. I will get to those last because I think those are the most important ones on this list, besides obviously I say most important, but what I mean is what it does for the meta. Now, let's go to the limited ones real quick first. 1 Jerusalem, rest in peace, Dragon Link. You get 2 Black Dragon and White Dragon in exchange. Besides that, that hurts Malice because they obviously use Jerusalem here as an extender and removal at the same time. 1 Shifter, good fucking riddance. Thank fucking God, Shifter is gone. Oh my God, I am so happy about that. Masterpiece, pretty cool. I'm glad he's free. He probably could come back to 2 next ban list. What's it called? Bonfire. It was expected. I expected Bonfire to get hit. It probably should have gone and hit during Snake Eyes format, but obviously Konami wanted to make money off of that format, and they want to push us now to go play 7th Tachyon and by extension 7th Ascension. So there's that. Brilliant Fusion, cool. Gem Knights is getting new support in the Battles of Legends set, which is pretty good. That helps the deck a lot. I do think it might see some play. The thing about it is are you willing to put 2 bricks and Brilliant Fusion in your deck just to get an extra normal? And of course, Circular, Cybers players, congratulations. Now, do I think Circular should have come back? Or should I say, should we really be scared of Circular? Probably not. The idea with Circular is, it's probably not going to be playing in Malice, that's for sure. But in Ryziel, because they're all level 4s, you can go, any 2 Ryziels, right? To any 2 Ryziels, make Alan Bershon gets Circular, dump Nabla to summon itself. Alan Bershon trigger to summon Nabla. Circular then triggers because a math effect was activated. Grab Super Factorial. Nabla tribute itself, get Diameter. And now you still have 2 level 4s for a duo drive. And then you do your Ryziel stuff from there. That's pretty good. I like it in there, but that's, 5 cards you gotta waste? I mean, I'd probably play it. Just because it's Circular. But with all the Cybers decks, though, probably it's pretty good. I like it. Detonator 1, I will be honest, that is probably the most shocking hit on here to me. Now, with Detonator 1, Pure Ryziel is probably in shambles as we speak. You almost rarely go into a second detonator. The reason you have a second detonator is in case, you gotta go into the grind game. But Cross shuffles all the Ryziels back to draw 1 card. So, rarely do you ever make a second detonator. Now, 1 detonator means that Ryziel Pure is pretty much dead. Not exactly dead, but it's just much harder to play now because the main game plan is you sit on a detonator, you have probably 4 materials under it, that's 4 pops, of course, right? And then you just kill them on the crackback. But if at any point your opponent uses like Metaltronus or Unicorn snipes it from the extra deck, right? That your game plan is shrewd now. For now, you have to figure out how you're going to beat your opponent without the main big boy in detonator. It sucks, believe me. It real sucks. But I do think that Ryzo is still good because it still bridges to every other engine that you like to play. For example, if you want to play the Mitsurugi ones, that's pretty good. Or if you want to say going to Fiendsmith, of course, right? Well, I'll talk about that in a moment. But you could still go into the Fiendsmith stuff, right? Well, that's not the worst thing in the world. And now, Crossout Designator and Triple Tactics Talents, thank goodness those were a hit. Now, believe me, it feels real good to resolve those. However, this is a big buff to go in second. Now, you always want to get your hand traps resolved. Remember, whoever goes first, it's almost like you are winning on the spot if any of your stuff gets resolved. Of course, right? You know, your opponent didn't ask your brand infusion. Woo, that's a good feeling, right? But we have to help going second. Now, that's not to say we should make another fucking template deck. Good riddance. No, don't do that. What I mean to say is your hand traps should resolve and they should feel impactful enough where it stops the turn 1 player from doing a big all fuck all combo. M board. Same with Triple Tactics Talents in a sense that talent is mostly used for either, depending on the situation, of course. It's Pot of Greed, Forceful Sentry, and Change of Heart. Now, what sucks about talent is that if you have talent going first, your opponent ashes your Brain Infusion, for example, right? Why should the second player be punished for interacting with you, right? Where they can look at your hand, get perfect information about your hand, then put one card that is probably instrumental for the rest of your combo back into the deck, right? That's horrible. That is horrible. That is horrible. Horrible. But all these, I love them. Every single hit on here, I love them. Now, do I wish Shifter was fucking banned? Of course. But Konami has at least taken notice, like, yeah, this motherfucker should have been banned. But we're going to see what happens at 1, and then from there, we'll probably just ban it. I hope they fucking ban it. Now, let's go for the forbidden stuff. Griffin, Link Decoder, Dweller, Bahama Shark, Nightmare Griffin, congratulations. You joined both Mermaid and Goblin on the ban list. Out of this, that is half of the Nightmares on the ban list now. Crazy, isn't it? But he probably deserved to be banned. It's a big fucking floodgate. If you have Griffin in the middle zone, good luck trying to activate your stuff. Link Decoder, rest in peace. One of the best Link ones for Malice. I understand it's used for like, obviously to help Malice combos through 2-3 hand traps, of course. It sucks, believe me, because we are getting the Adignister stuff in a month from now, and that was probably going to be used in that deck easily. But I understand that Decoder was probably the good hit from here. The only other one I think, if he had to directly hit Malice, wasn't the Lynx, but probably Haggard Lizardos, in the event that you keep Decoder, because that was a good link to that they keep going into, to keep climbing, of course. But I understand. I understand he was wide link Decoder. Still a good hit, but I'm not the biggest fan. But I understand it's a good hit. Dweller, Bahama Shark. So Dweller, time has come. You shut off almost 90% of the decks here in the current meta. Understand that the deck philosophy is that they use the graveyard as another engine or as a second hand, essentially, and Dweller just kind of shuts it off. If you don't top deck Droplet or Imperm when they activate Dweller specifically, your turn is basically over, and that sucks. Bahama Shark, I'm also not the biggest fan, but I understand why. It should have been towed, but they have to build around Bahama Shark in the near future because everyone loves sharks. Believe me, I love sharks. But Bahama Shark was being played in decks that should not have any business making it, and by extension, making Toad. Now, this is 2 hits, specifically to Mermail, and it's a slight buff because Dweller's banned, but the reason is because Mermail would make Bahama Shark detach, summon Toad, that's Nibiru protection, and you trigger Dragoons or Shadow Squad. So, they lost 2 monsters that can proactively detach for material in order to get their bonus effects. Now, the thing about Mermail Atlantean is that there's still one giant elephant in the room, and that is Moonling Glacia. They are still going to hand rip you for 3 with it and Deep Sea Minstrel. Pray to the gods that don't happen to me. Now, we got ourselves the semi-limited list. Let's go through. Let's save the big ones for last, of course. Let's go through. I mentioned earlier, Dragon Link. You lost 2 Druids for him, but in extension, you got 1 more Collapsip and 1 more Wyvern Burster. Personally, give him another Chaos Space, and then we'll talk. It's pretty good. Of course, Dragon Link will forever be that one deck that can it go into the pile? It's one of those decks that can it go into the pile, of course, right? The Metamorph stuff, you got Red Eyes Black Full Metal Dragon, and that was fantastic for like 2 weeks, man. And then Morphing Jar, it could come to 3. I could care less about Morphing Jar, honestly. It's whatever. The world will keep going, will keep spinning. I'll be honest. Snake Eye, Ash, and Poplar, back to 2. I think this is kind of the test in the waters. I don't think Snake Eyes is still like it can't compete with the big dogs, but since they lost OSS, that was one of the best starters and extenders. But now what sucks is Poplar only really just gets the field spell. That's really it. It's both of them. The 2 is quite a choice. I probably just keep Poplar the 2 and make Ash the 1 if I'm honest, but it shouldn't matter, right? Now, the big boys. X, Ice, and Sword. Dormouse, White Rabbit, Underground. Oh, wait, before I get those. Unchained fans, we got 2 Shavara. Woo! Shavara can come back to 3. It can come back to 3. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. X, Ice, Sword, Dormouse, White Rabbit, Underground. So, I didn't. I don't know if I alluded to earlier, but Rizio, Malice, and Mermail got toned down a bit, where they're not unplayable per se, but they definitely are much weaker now because they lost a lot of consistency stuff. Now, I think meta decks are powerful because of how consistent they are. Snake Eyes was consistent because everything kind of just went in together in a nice flowing chart, like a nice flowing conveyor belt, essentially, right? Ash get Poplar get Field Spell plays Diabell Star, go like that. If you had 3 Ash, 3 Poplar, whatever, right? It would just keep going. That's how consistent that deck was. Now, X, Ice, Sword, being at 2 copies each, means there's only 7 main deck names you are playing in Pure. You're playing 2 X, Ice, Sword, and 1 Node. That is horrible because not only did they lose 1 Bonfire, but now they have to compensate by using 7th Tachyon. 7th Tachyon isn't exactly Bonfire, of course, but you can still search whatever Rizio you need. However, because there's only 7 names, you don't really want to be going through that many names to do your combo, especially since you only got 1 detonator now as well. This means you probably want to play with a supplementary engine, of course. Probably Fiendsmith, probably Mitsurugi, because those decks don't really. You can really do that stuff and then do your other side engine and then whatever. Have fun with it. Make a disarray with the Agnum Day equipped, or have the Mitsurugi ritual on field, and then do your Raizo stuff. That also means, now, where was I going with this? Great. Dormouse, White Ribbon, Malice Underground. This deck, while is not as consistent compared to Raizo, of course. They only have 3 main deck monsters, with Dormouse, White Rabbit, and Chessy Cat. However, you never played Chessy Cat at 3. You only played Dormouse at 3, and you played White Rabbit at 3, pure, of course. If you're running the Bestial Fiendsmith versions, right, you're chucking down the numbers because you're playing more of a control version of that deck, since you're adding more Bestials and have the Fiendsmith engine with you. Pure, this sucks because Dormouse is the most important starter of the deck, right next to White Rabbit, of course. Yes, you still have things like Allure, but Underground is also a starter on its own, in hands that you don't really got anything else to keep going. Not only that, but Malice also lost Link Decoder, one of the best Link ones for the deck to go into. So now you're going to have to play things like, oh God, what was his name? Almirage? Oh, no, not Almirage. Lingariro and Almirage, as those are good enough links, you know, at least get something going. Now, do I think these 2 decks are like over? No, because they're both of them and Ryugi are getting support in Alliance Inside. Raizo's getting another name and another spell trap, pretty good. Mouse is getting another main deck monster and a spell trap, but they're also getting stuff from the main theme. At Ignister, they're all Dark Cybers. They all search Dark Cybers, which is what all the Malice cards is. So Malice turns from more of a control-ish deck, right, with the Bestials and Fiendsmith stuff added with it, to now more combo focused with the Ad Ignister stuff. They got a Omni Negate with Code Talker Ad Ignister, for example, which summons monsters from your graveyard with 2300 attack to the zones that it points to. Red Ransom and White Binder specifically have 2300 attack. So now you're going to be playing more of a combo focused deck that has just a really big board that's really hard to break through. Like, it has so many things that you have to chew through, of course. Red Ransom is flipping your attack and defense. White Binder, whenever it gets summoned, it's just banishing 3 cards from your graveyard. That hurts the grind games, of course, because you're actively losing resources for you to go into. So if they're banishing important names in your graveyard that you need, rest in peace. Now, they also lost Griffin, but I really didn't like the Griffin stuff. They honestly could have just been doing better stuff, right? The Striker build was pretty cool. The Terahertz stuff is fine. Now, for this very short format, if you're playing Malice, you probably want to run Striker or Fiendsmith, or unfortunately, you lost a lot of Bestials. You're only down 1 Magma Hunt and 1 Druid, meaning you have to run more, unfortunately, more Baldrake and Saronir. And for Raizo, you can't. It's really hard to play Pure. As shown in YCS Houston, Pure is so hard to play because you'll be just bricking on stuff that you don't really need with the 20 hand traps. You went from 10 names to 7, which is horrible. That you also lost 2 Bonfire, and it's just, I don't even think you want to put that many hand traps now. You need to find engine now. Of course, Murmur Atlantean also got hit in extension with a slight buff. You want to make a Dweller, but your opponent doesn't want to. You don't want to get hit by Dweller by your opponent, of course, because all your Murmurs won't trigger. They lost both Xyz with Dweller and Bahamut to proactively detach. To the top of my head, there's like 2 that they can make. It's Ragna 0. If there's a monster in Snowdust Giant, which is the funniest thing. They bought that out, by the way. They bought out Snowdust Giant. It hasn't been it's so funny. There's also 1 shifter in the format, of course, so they don't have to worry about shifter, thank goodness. So, a lot of this stuff is good, believe me. there is some bad. Of course, as you see, there's no Fiendsmith hits. Now, is that a bad thing? Kind of, yes. The only reason Fiendsmiths didn't get hit is because they got 2 reprints in Quarter Century Stampede, in Engraver and Disarray. Now, that means you can't exactly hit Graver and Disarray because they're just gonna get reprinted. You know, they're about to release for the official TCG play. But that also means the rest of the stuff didn't get hit at all. Track did not get hit. Requiem didn't get hit. Moon especially didn't get hit. Now, I like to think Moon is more like a pseudo mermaid. At any point, if your deck can do it, they can go into the Fiendsmith stuff, of course. Granted, it's like a 7-card extra deck, or like 6 cards in your extra deck for this engine, of course, which sucks, but if you can do it, you can make it. It is a very fun engine, and everyone was chanting, "Oh, Engraver's getting reprinted. It's gonna be cheap again." Think again, bro. Track is at like $60. Requiem's at like $30. Lacrima's at like $30. Granted, you only play one Lacrima and one Requiem. It's still $60. Engraver was $60 about a month and a half ago, and now he's $3 for like the best rarity in Stampede. That sucks. I understand that Konami couldn't hit the Fiendsmith stuff in 6 months. In 6 months from now, guys, it'll probably get hit in 6 months from now, like towards, probably towards late September, October-ish. I would say around that maybe, unless Konami decides to do another emergency ban list, but I highly doubt it. The other big stuff is there's a lot of cards that probably should have been taken off. There's a post I'll try to find, but I'll try to leave it in the description of before the ban list, exclusively each section's exclusive bans in the TCG, OCG, and Master Duel. TCG had like 30. The OCG had 3, and Master Duel had about 15. I will say, Master Duel has some pretty base hits in there. They hit the floodgates. In the OCG, Wandering Griffin Rider is still banned. Here in the TCG, we have stuff like Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow, Lineup Carriers and Matey, Meow Moo, Appaloosa, Baron, Borlo Savage Dragon, and of course, the big one, Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. I'm so sorry, Pendulum players, but I don't know when we're gonna get Electromite back. I really would like Electromite back, but Masterpiece was confirmed to be the one instead of Electromite. I'm so sorry. Also, where's Roundup Cares and Matey Konami? You can bring it back to 3 and ban One Hunter for all I care. What's Windham going to do in this day and age, man? Now, believe me, this is a one-of-a-kind ban list that we probably won't see for a while. And I got 2 claps. Konami, you hit it out of the park with this. This is a fantastic ban list. This feels like it's missing like 1, 2, or maybe 3 more cards, and this would have been the perfect ban list. But it's so good already that you can't really be upset because this is something that they hit it out of the park with this one. It is already a home run. At that point, it might hit the goddamn river on the side of the road. But the fact that it was a home run is great. And that's fantastic. It showed that Konami didn't really prioritize money. Because people thought, okay, they might not hit the Rizio or the Malice stuff. But they did. And that's the crazy thing. Even though they're confirmed getting support soon. The fact that they knew how powerful these decks were. And it's like, yeah, we gotta hit them. We can't make them unplayable, of course, because they're getting support, but we gotta hit them, and this is fantastic. Konami, this is like a 8.5, almost 8.9 out of 10 for me. Congratulations, this is fantastic. Thank you all for so much watching. I'll see you guys next time. I'm still working on the LeBron video.